Welcome back to I Want That Too, the show where we do a deep dive into the world of Disney merchandise, sharing the stories behind some of your favorite collectibles. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and I'm joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Lauren Hersey.
Hello, Jim, and happy almost May the 4th to you, sir. We have so much fun jammed up in this episode. We're going to look at some galactic goodies, and we are also going to look at some iconic character celebrations. Like I said, as we're gearing up for May the 4th, and we're going to look at some anniversaries. How's that sound?
That sounds great, Lauren. And again, we're going to drop this episode on May 3rd, just one day shy of Star Wars Day. And in today's feature, we will be talking about my recently completed Muppets in Space Jelly Jar collection.
Holy moly, I have never thought I'd be so excited about a jelly jar collection. Yay, can't wait for that. But before we do that, we need to thank our sponsor.
This is true, Lauren, and we have to offer up a big thanks to our sponsor, touringplans.com, for supporting the show. Planning a trip to Disney or Universal can feel overwhelming, given all there is to see and do. But with Touring Plans, you get personalized planning tools and insight to crowd patterns, helping you skip the long lines and making the most of your visit. So save time and money by visiting our friends at touringplans.com.
Thank you, Touring Plans, for sponsoring our show. And all right, Jim, what is happening in the news?
Well, Lauren, as you probably know, the city of Anaheim has unanimously passed the vote for Disneyland Forward, which means that the Disneyland Resort in the not-so-distant future will be undergoing a massive change. And you know, there are those who say this fulfills Walt's long ago promise that he made at, the dedication ceremony of Disneyland back in July of 1955, that Disneyland will never be completed.
Yeah, I mean, that is some serious big news. Like, we're getting very, very close to hearing if Disneyland Forward is actually going to move forward. But let's just speculate for a second and say it's definitely happening. What do you think is to come?
Well, okay. What's kind of interesting is you have to read the tea leaves, so to speak. I mean, for example, later this spring, we'll be seeing Fantasy Springs open at Tokyo Disneyland, which is not just a new port, so to speak, at Tokyo Disney Seas, but it's also a hotel. And there are those who are speculating quite loudly that when the expansion of the Disneyland Resort goes forward, we're going to see that exact mix of elements. We're going to see new lands, but the difference is that there's going to be, as opposed to a hotel that looks into the park, there will be a hotel actually inside of the park. It's not exactly new because this is being done over at Tokyo, but it is new-ish. Want to be clear here, Disneyland Forward is not green-lit yet to build an entirely new theme park. And in fact, to be clear here, what they're looking for from the Anaheim City Council is the flexibility to be able to redesign the resort as we know it today.
Okay, so we could be getting some redesigns and, we could be getting some new lands. So, I mean, are there any predictions on what Disney might be planning with all these developments?
Okay. So, what's the polite way of put this? We did see a Frozen land open at Hong Kong Disneyland last year. We will have a Frozen themed land opening at Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, Disney Adventure World in France. Magic 8 Ball says, hey, Frozen in Anaheim, a very strong possibility.
Please, Frozen in Anaheim. Please. Can we make that happen? so I don't have to go all the way to,
Yeah. Okay.
Paris. I mean, I think I could, have a trip in my future to go see Frozen, but I would much rather go to California. How about you?
Got it. Well, again, as much as I also want to travel to Japan and Hong Kong, not just because our good friend Mr. Schul has worked on those parks and wants to show off the things he worked on. But yeah, but at the same time, it would be nice to have new, fun things based on IPs that we know and love, in Anaheim. And toward that end, Bob Iger just recently shared a piece of concept art for, I think Bob used the phrase an avatar themed experience rather than actually saying the word land. But did you see this piece of concept art, by the way, Lauren?
I absolutely did. So it is different than what we have in Florida. So what are you
Absolutely.
thinking that maybe it could include?
Well, again, if you take a close look at the concept art, there are palm trees. There seems to be a beach area, which those of you who went out to theaters back in 2022 to see Avatar: The Way of Water, that's where the second film in the Avatar series was set, and that seems to be what's coming to Anaheim. Florida will be set, on Pandora in the Deep Jungle from the first film, and that Anaheim will have, will celebrate the Way of Water. And in fact, what's especially interesting is if you look really closely at that piece of concept art, you see a boat coming out of a show building. And what's interesting is it's not the same boat that we see for the Navi River journey, the version of the boat attraction that we have in Florida. Much bigger vehicle. So yeah, we're getting something different in California. It's
And
something.
isn't that boat outside? If I'm
Well, yes, that's also worth noting as well. That the boat comes out of the building. So one wonders if it splashes down when it does that. But anyway, again, different than Florida.
different than Florida, well, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm very much looking forward to that $1.9 billion investment that Disney has said that they're going to be making in the parks. I mean, is there anything else that you think might be heading in the direction for those parks? Just speculating.
Well, again, what's important to understand is that we're having, and again, we have to wait for a second Anaheim City Council vote before, things officially begin to move forward. And given the somewhat glacial pace that the Walt Disney Company moves at when it comes to theme park expansions, Lauren, it's quite likely that what we're talking about today won't be something that guests can actually begin to experience till as late as 2029, 2030.
Oh, that feels like
And
so far away.
again, it is, but in the world of theme park construction, that's 5 minutes from now. I mean, it's one of those things where, oh God, we got to contact the factory to make the steel, and that's so much work that would have to be done before those places could open.
Right, but Jim, I have to say though, rumbling is that there might not be as much land to fill if we get an Avatar experience in Anaheim. Like, so where do you think it's going to go?
Well, now that's the most interesting part because remember, the key phrase here was that Anaheim, Disney is looking to get permission from the Anaheim City Council to take areas that they already have at the resort and redesign them. And what that means is there are areas from the previous development plan for the Disneyland Resort, the one that they got the Anaheim City Council to sign off on in the early 90s. We're talking like 1991. But for drainage issues and that sort of thing, some of these areas were literally, that's a roadway, that's a parking lot. And what Disney is looking to do this time around is to have the city council effectively allow them to rezone. It's like, no, that's not a parking lot anymore. That's where we could expand out to, and put a, if not a full new theme park, an extension of Disneyland or an extension of
Oh, an
DCA.
experience, says
Yep,
Bob
there we
Iger.
go. Yep. So yeah, that's that if you take that into consideration, and like for one of the things that they're seeking permission to do is literally have Disney Way, which is a road into, that allows people today to have access to the Disneyland Hotel. That's going to go away, and that then becomes developable space. And you would honestly be surprised how much acreage you can get if you grab Disney Way and turn that into someplace you can start dropping attractions.
Oh, well, listen, I am so stoked to see what's to come. And as we know more, we will certainly be sharing that information with our listeners and viewers. But let's switch gears to Florida for a second and talk about their just released new line of Pandora World of Avatar merch. And I'm telling you, like, it's super, super cool. I really can appreciate this new collection.
Wow, I don't think I've seen this stuff yet. Tell me about it.
Okay. So I'm not normally this jazzed about a specific collection, and I'm not the biggest Avatar fan. I'm sorry, but this one has got me excited. So they've released a whole range of new products at Wind Traders in Pandora at Disney's Animal Kingdom, if you're not familiar. One standout is the Open Edition pin set. If you're into pins, they have one featuring the Banshee straight out of Avatar, The Way of Water and Flight of Passage. They also have a mystery pin set where each box offers two randomly selected pins from a collection of 8 different Avatar creatures. So that's really exciting if you're a pin collector who's also into Avatar.
The thing of the mystery pin sets, it's always that roll of the dice. Okay. Speaking of roll, what else did they roll out?
Okay, so here's the highlight. This is what I'm really excited about. They have introduced some amazing glow in the dark apparel, and I absolutely adore it. The collection features like a youth hoodie that's designed, has like all over Banshee print, and it's Banshee blue. I'm going to like coin that Banshee blue with a yellow zipper and some matching stitching. But don't worry, for the adults, there is a really cool purple hoodie with lots of glow in the dark elements, including there's print on the sleeves. They have the Pandora logo, and this one is $54.99. Like, I actually probably will buy this when I'm in the park next time.
And I got to tell you, going with glow in the dark, given that, from the films and actually the land itself, the whole notion of bioluminescence is very much on Avatar brand. So that sounds like a really clever idea. Any other light up merch?
Yes, there actually is. They've also introduced a new light up water bottle that features print of Pandora wildlife in their natural elements. And I must say it's pretty slick. There's a button at the bottom of the bottle. It triggers it to light up in, a number of different colors. I don't know, Jim. I'm going to say this bottle is worth the $24.99 price tag, especially if you love Avatar. You're going to be visiting the park at night, and we're coming up on the summer nights. You probably need some water. And I'm not sure if they've done like a light up line in the past. I know that we had the really cool drum from when the first movie came out, and it did light up in the blue, but this is like something that I've not seen before.
Well, let's face it, Disney has a knack for really knowing its audience and the merch they want. So, forgive me for channeling a banshee here, but I bet these new items will fly off the shelf. So, but you know what else is causing buzz among the Disney fans? It's even one here at the house.
What? Tell me.
Okay, so got to start off by telling you that Nancy has a Donald Duck problem. We in fact, we have a room here at the house, an entire room that is filled with her Donald Duck stuff. And
No way.
I'm
I need a
serious.
picture of it.
All right,
Seriously.
I will at some point go upstairs and get you a photo of, I mean, she's got porcelain, she's got plush, she's got classic pieces from the 30s, commemorative stuff. But anyway, I have been somewhat hesitant to mention to her that there is a 90th anniversary Donald Duck collection that is just now making its way out the door.
Well, I mean, you're not really lying. I mean, it's not fully out yet. We're just getting little teases here and there from Disney. So, Nancy, it's coming.
Okay.
But if
Kind of
you
a sin
are,
of omission at this point. So
there you go.
okay, you were saying.
Just slightly omitting because we only gotten to see a couple items so far. But let's talk a little bit about what we have so far. It looks like the Disney Park blog, like I said, is giving us some sneak peeks of these items. My personal favorite, we got our mini ears, all about Donald. So we have one ear that shows Donald looking like his usual cranky self. I don't know. I have to ask though. Like for Nancy, does she like the cranky Donald or does she like the happy Donald?
Well, no. I mean, Nancy is a completist. I mean, we have long-billed Donalds from the 30s. We have, classic Donald at the height of his popularity from the 40s. In fact, somewhere here on my desk, I actually have some DuckTale toys from the revival of the show, and that includes the Donald that was on that show who had the black shirt as opposed to the blue shirt. That's really how deep we go with ducks here at this house. Anyway, you were saying.
That is a deep cut with the black shirt Donald. I did not know that. Okay, back to the mini ears. Sorry about that. All right, so we got cranky Donald on one ear, and then we have the other, which is like a happy expression, and it's topped off with a fluffy white bow, marked with a 90 in the middle, and it's really a cute design. Like his little fluffy tail appears to be like sticking out from the zero. If you are listening to us as a podcast, you should go over to the YouTube channel at Jim Hill Media. Check that out. It's very cute. And that's not all. There's also, so I'm going to go with they're teasing a whole vintage line, but there's one vintage item for this 90th anniversary celebration. So it is a vintage looking blue faux leather wallet. It says like Quacketeer Club. Did I get it right? It's like the Mouseketeer, but Quacketeer. It's very cute.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I didn't butcher that. Great. And it is a retro image of Donald. So I'm really excited to see the entire collection when it launches.
And that is June, right? A month after next, when people can start to get their hands on this stuff, right?
Yes. So the actual anniversary is on June 9th from his creation in 1934. So if I had to take a guess, it'll be out just around then. And you will be able to grab these items at both Disney World, Disneyland, as well as the Disney Store. So whether you're visiting the park, shopping from home, you will not miss out. So tell Nancy she doesn't even have to leave her PJs to get her 90th anniversary Donald merch.
Well, I bet we'll be
or not. It's our
Donald
secret.
DJs while we're at it. Okay. Well, okay. All right. Well, we'll be sure and mark our calendars here. And okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break now, but stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the latest merch that's tied to Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And again, I will once again be talking about my Muppet Jelly Jar collection. But first, this.
And we're back.
Yes, and now we're heading to a galaxy far, far away because we're diving into some exciting Star Wars related news at the Disney parks.
That's right, Jim. May 4th is just around the corner, and Disney is gearing up for the big day with some new merch.
By the way, worth noting, Brian Gunn, the very talented gentleman I do looking at Lucasfilm with, he has actually just let me know he purchased a ticket for May the 4th, the actual day, Star Wars Day. He will be there in Anaheim, and he's promised to try to get me. Do you know about this Loth Cat tiki mug that they're supposed to be selling at Oga's Cantina as part of Season of the Force?
Yes, I have seen that personally as we were looking at tiki items. I have heard about that.
Okay, well, he's going to try to get me one. So,
What? Yeah, I got to add it to your cat collection. By the way, I still
yeah,
have one of
well,
your
there we
cats
go.
here in West Virginia.
There we go. Okay, so anyway, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're probably thrilled to hear about that 2024's May the 4th Be With You collection is now live over at the DisneyStore.com and will be hitting Walt Disney World Resort and the Disneyland Resort again beginning on May 4th of this year.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more items in the park, but something that really caught my eye just doing a little bit of research for the show was this new Will Gay collection. And it is designed specifically for Star Wars Day. And Will Gay is an artist. So they had an artist series bowl set. It was priced at $39.99. There was also in the same type of artistic expression, a throw blanket featuring, the adorable Ewoks. It was $44. There was a stylish bucket hat, which I love, with artistic interpretations of characters like Boba Fett, Chewie, R2-D2. They even introduced a new set of collector's plates. There are 4, so you'll definitely want to check that out. And there's a whole section devoted to the Star Wars Day merch on Shop Disney. And if you are a lady in the house, then you might like the new Petunia Pickle Bottom line. That includes a Grogu Sync backpack. That is $189. They also had the Petunia Pickle Bottom lunch tote for $49 and a sling bag for $79. They're all in the same kind of like sleek black patterns. And I really, really like the artwork on this. It's not like something that we've seen before. Looking at the backpack, it's pretty impressive because it has 12 pockets. 12,
Oof.
Jim. Yeah, so if
Okay.
you are like a lady that has a lot of things, or maybe like a baby or multiple children or just a child, a pet, anything that you would need a lot of pockets, there's 12 in this bag. And one is an insulated pocket for like either a baby bottle or a water bottle. There's also a padded text sleeve. So each bag features that artistic version of Grogu surrounded by like little stars. They look like little hand-drawn stars. It's very cute. And then for our collectors in the house, Disney is offering some exclusive limited release pins and a limited edition Magic Band Plus to celebrate Star Wars Day. All right, so let's not forget about the lightsaber, light up and sound water bottle. This thing is really, really slick. It's priced at $39.99, and this one is a real treat.
Wow, that all sounds exciting, and I have to admit, I've also been intrigued at the photos that are out there of the Jabba the Hutt popcorn bucket,
Oh my gosh.
and also, just on a side tangent here, because Pixar Fest is also sort of on top of Season of the Force out at Disneyland. Did you see the Doug from Up popcorn bucket that talks?
Yes, seriously, we need to go back to these popcorn buckets. We have had some of our listeners reaching out and telling us about their collections. We just had somebody telling us about Bambi and Bambi 2. Thank you for that. But like for real, guys, like tell us what you're doing with these popcorn buckets, because I'm pretty sure Jabba the Hutt would like take up Jim's whole desk.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
what do you do with it?
I do not. I'm just fascinated by something that big. How do you display it?
Please send us pictures.
Yeah, no. Please. But okay, if you're planning a trip to the Disneyland Resort, be sure to check out the Season of the Force event, which is running now through June 2nd. It's packed full of all sorts of Star Wars goodness, including Hyperspace Mountain and themed beverages and food options.
Yes, there's just so much. So whether you're shopping online or you're preparing for an epic visit to Disney parks, may the Force be with you.
Now, speaking of things that start in May, we're going to, just this week, the 35th anniversary of the opening of Disney's Hollywood studio. In fact, I want to mention that myself and Len and Mr. Schul just put together a new video that's over on YouTube, which features some photos that Mr. Schul took at the construction site some 6 months prior to this theme park opening. And Lauren and her talented husband, Eric Hersey, were able to take that and get that. I mean, we recorded it just last week, and it's up there now, so go check that out. But again,
so good. It is so good. My favorite part, I just have to say, is where you can see the shadow of Mr. Scholl in the corner, like doing his amateur photography. It's
there
great.
There we go. But again, it's all about celebrating May 1st, 1989, which is when the park that was formerly known as Disney MGM Studios opened at Walt Disney World. And now what was interesting is that Michael Eisner, and again, he was the guy behind building a third park in Florida, but he felt there had to be a way to differentiate the studio from the Magic Kingdom in Florida, and likewise Epcot Center. So August 29th, 1989, the Walt Disney Company announced that it had begun negotiations to acquire the Jim Henson Company. And more to the point, as part of that deal, and it's supposedly going to cost $150 million in 1989 money, Lauren. So
that's a lot.
That's almost $500 million in today's money. But anyway, but one of the key components of that was a 15-year-long exclusive contract for Jim Henson's creative services. But anyway, as far as Eisner was concerned, the biggest get here was the Muppets would now live at MGM. And that would make Walt Disney World's third theme park different from Florida's Magic Kingdom, where the classic Muppet characters lived. And out ahead of today's show, folks, I sent Lauren some concept art that I have for what was once supposed to be built in Florida, Muppet Movie Land. And Lauren, do you want to talk about what I sent you?
Yeah, except for I'm so sad that that we didn't actually get that. When you sent me those images, I was like, wow, like I can't wait to hear how we ended up with what we got.
All right. Once upon a time, the way it was supposed to happen was, well, first we were going to get Kermit the Frog Presents a Muppet Vision 3D, which we got. We actually got. But on the other hand, the next thing up after that was going to be the Great Muppet Movie Ride, which was this ride through attraction where the Great Gonzo was going to explain how your favorite Hollywood movies were made. And for example, the introductory scene for this attraction was Gonzo is in a director's chair, one of those things on a big swooping arm. And there's a giant screen in front of you that shows a scene from Dr. Zhivago, only it's instead of Omar Sharif and Julie Christie, it's Piggy and Kermit dressed in heavy winter clothing, and they're riding a sleigh through a snowstorm. And Gonzo's like, "Well, do you ever wonder how that was done?" And your ride vehicle literally goes under the screen, and on the other side of the screen is a giant snow globe, and inside of the snow globe are Piggy and Kermit. Only they're floating in the water because 4 Muppet monsters are holding the base of it and shaking it, to make the snow effect. And that's the thing is you constantly showed how movies are made, and it's wrong. So, but at the same time, Gonzo's a really talented guy because he's not just a movie director. He's also a restaurateur, and you would have been able to go to the Great Gonzo's Pandemonium Pizza Parlor, where as you sat at your table and you ordered food, you could look up in the rafters and see rats with little hand cars going by as they were supposedly carrying like those little shaker bottles of Parmesan cheese to individual tables. And here's the thing, Lauren, they built it. They actually built that restaurant. It's Mama Melrose.
Oh, I was going to say, is it Pizza Rizzo?
Yep. Well, no, that's the interesting part. Pizza Rizzo was actually the quick service restaurant. That was going to be the Swedish chef's TV cooking school. And you'd be able to go in there and order burgers and fries and that sort of thing. But there'd be these great, video screens that were supposedly showing you what was going on live in the kitchen where your food was being prepared. And, every so often you'd see the pizza dough come to life and attack the Swedish chef, or you'd see these faux doors, that were supposedly leading the kitchen that would periodically belch open, and a cloud of smoke and chicken feathers would enter the room, and it was going to be so much fun. But again, the idea was Muppet Movie Land, and and mind you, this was Florida. In California, they were going to start with the Muppet Vision 3D, only it was going to go into the Main Street Opera House as the replacement for Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. We'll get to that in a moment. All right. So anyway, again, deal gets announced August of 1989. By January. By January of 1990, production has already begun on Muppet Vision 3D. Then in March of 1990, to sort of introduce the world to the Muppets are coming to Walt Disney World, they literally make a TV special called The Muppets at Walt Disney World. In fact, you can go on YouTube and watch it right now. In the same window of time, Lauren, Jim Henson, again, really one of the first things he's doing as part of his creative services thing, he's shooting a live action Little Mermaid TV show pilot where the Sebastian and Flounder, and by the way, did you know Flounder had a sister named Sandy?
No, I did not.
But that's the thing, that the creatures are puppets, but the Little Mermaid herself is a live action. And again, it's something you can go on YouTube right now and watch. But anyway, it's all so promising. It's all so wonderful. And then May 16th, 1990, Jim Henson dies suddenly at the age of 53 due to bacterial pneumonia. And the acquisition deal isn't completed yet, Lauren. More to the point, the wheels start to come off because Jim died without a will. And, the estate taxes for the state of New York, and that was where the Jim Henson Company was based at the time, they were going to eat up a lot of the $150 million that Disney had initially said they'd spend for Henson. But where this got interesting and complicated, Disney came back and said, okay, tell you what, we understand about the estate tax situation. We'll help out. We'll give you more money, but you have to give us your half of Sesame Street. And the Henson family was like, no, we're not going to do that. Meanwhile, August of 1990, word breaks out among the residents of Orange County. And you have to understand, this is a very conservative part of the country, Lauren. And when they learned that Mr. Lincoln is being, pushed out of the Main Street Opera House by Kermit the Frog, it's like, oh no.
That's a hard no. Hard no.
Yeah. And oh no. And so they flood Disneyland with letters, and that gets shut down. And this is the point that Disney realizes, wow, it's not going to be as easy to bring the Muppets into the park as much as we thought. Plus, there are now no new movies and TV shows flowing from the creative mind of Jim Henson. And by the way, want to stress here that later this month, on May 29th, the Disney Channel is running a documentary that was directed by Ron Howard called Jim Henson, idea man that will look back on the length and breadth of Jim Henson's creative career. So mark your calendar, folks. You're going to really want to watch that show again, May 29th. All right. Okay, and again, you also have to understand the Henson Company, the people who work there, in addition to the family, are still reeling from the loss of Jim. In fact, there's a wonderful television special. Again, you can watch it on YouTube, called "The Muppets Salute Jim Henson," that aired on CBS in November of 1990, and seemed full of promise about all the things that were about to happen. It all comes crashing down on December 14th, 1990. The Jim Henson Company announces it is breaking off talks with the Walt Disney Company when it comes to the acquisition of the Muppets. And then, Lauren, it gets worse.
It could get worse.
It gets worse. April 17th, 1991. The Henson Company files a lawsuit against Disney and accuses them of outright theft of their IP. And you have to understand, they are building the theater that, that Muppet Vision 3D is supposed to debut in later that spring in Florida. And they're suddenly like, hang on, this custom built theater might not have a movie. We're being sued by the Henson family. Anyway, the very next month, May 6, 1991, Disney and Henson settled their disagreement. They dropped the lawsuit, and an agreement is put in place that will now allow Muppet Vision 3D to open in Florida. Lauren, this was just 10 days before the attraction opened at the park.
Oh my gosh.
Right, that's how close it came. And now, the two companies start to sort of tiptoe toward one another, and it's like, all right, can we work together? And if so, how? And so December of 91, Disney announces they've cut a deal with the Henson Company to release the Henson's library of movies and TV shows under a brand new banner at Walt Disney Home Entertainment. This will be the Jim Henson Home Video label. In the same window of time, face it, Jim's gone. But the Muppets have to live on. So, they got to get the next project in gear. So they cut a deal with ABC to make a TV movie based on Charles Dickens' holiday classic, A Christmas Carol. And Jerry Jewell, longtime writer for the Muppets, finishes the script. It's at this point that Disney steps up and says, hey, we want to make that as a feature film to be released to theaters. And hidden agenda here, Lauren? Michael Eisner, who loved the Muppets, not to tell tales out of school here, but when he was in charge of Saturday morning television at ABC, I don't want to say embezzled, but may have, funneled some money out of ABC's Saturday morning budget to give it to Jim Henson so he could shoot the first two pilots of the Muppet show. Was kind of
some serious love right there.
That's serious love. I could lose my job, but I believe strongly what you're trying to do here. So, and anyway, but he was still hopeful that this could work out. Well, maybe the Henson family will come around. Maybe the Muppets will come live here at Disney. So, Brian Henson, Jim's 29-year-old son, winds up directing A Christmas Carol. And he tells the story today that when it's done, Disney looks at it and said, I thought this would be funny. It's a drama. And it's like, have you read A Christmas Carol? It's got ghosts. It's about, a guy who, thinks he's going to die. All right. Anyway, December 1982, Muppet Christmas Carol comes out. Does okay at the box office. I mean, it makes $27 million in ticket sales. It cost $12 million to make. And obviously, looking further on down the line, becomes a beloved holiday classic. But again, the Henson Company has to get the Muppets back out in the public space. So in May of 1993, so just 6 months later, Henson Productions announced their next production is going to be Muppet Treasure Island. Now, mind you, they don't have a distributor lined up. Disney has a first look deal as the first right of refusal, but Brian really, really, really wants to make Muppet Treasure Island for some other studio than Disney. And
What?
Lauren, the reason here is that Muppet Vision 3D, that again, remember that deal that was made just 10 days before the attraction opened. The original deal was only for 18 months.
Oh.
And with language in the deal to the effect of if everybody played nice, they would then renew the deal for an additional 3.5 years. So it could have a 5-year run at Disney MGM. So, again, if things had gone south, Muppet Vision 3D would have only run at the studios through 1996, then gone into the Disney Vault, never to be seen again. I mean, the very last thing Jim Henson himself personally directed, gone,
And look at us almost 20 years later.
Yeah, easy. Now, also remember, Disney is now releasing Henson's movies and TV shows under their home entertainment division. And of course, the fact that the first movie that he made after Jim Henson's death got released by Disney Studios. And what Brian is afraid of is that the impression that's now out there in Hollywood is that Muppets, for all intents and purposes, is owned by Disney. I mean, the deal fell through, but they seemed to only do business with Mickey, which then meant other studios and entertainment companies, they'd be reluctant to do business with Jim Henson Company. So this is why Brian's like, we need to do something that allows us to step out from under the mouse's shadow and send a message to the rest of Hollywood that, Henson is its own separate thing from Disney and that we're willing to work with you guys, just if you want. And so, but again, November 93, home video version of Muppet Christmas Carol goes on sale. Behind the scenes, there are no nibbles for, other studios stepping up and offering to even, let alone produce Muppet Treasure Island, but even just distribute the film. And so to keep the lights on at the Henson Company, Brian has to agree to, all right, well, let's make a home premiere with Disney. So September of 94, they create this thing called Muppet Classic Theater, which is original production for the home video market. It's 6 classic fairy tales told the Muppet way. It's a lot of fun. But again, behind the scenes, Brian can't get a deal with any studio. He has to reluctantly go back to Disney and go, all right, you want to make Muppet Treasure Island? Let's go make Muppet Treasure Island. So April of 1995, production of Muppet Treasure Island begins over in the UK. 14 long week shoot. They're shooting it in the exact same studio that they shot Muppet Christmas Carol, Shepperton. And Brian Henson is once again directing. And this time around, he's okay working for Disney on a Muppet movie for theatrical release because Brian has a plan. He has something in his back pocket. He's been talking with the folks at ABC. And July 19th, 1995, just as they're completing production of Treasure Island, it is announced that the Jim Henson Company has cut a deal with ABC Television. They're going to produce a new version of the Muppet Show for prime time. By the way, this was originally called The New Muppet Show. Eventually ended up airing on ABC as Muppets Tonight. Anyway, so it's supposed to begin airing on ABC as a mid-season replacement in late winter, early spring of the next year, 1996. And to Brian's way of thinking, this is a genius plan. Disney will release, it's supposed to release Muppet Treasure Island in February of the next year, 1996. Just a month or so later, Muppets Tonight will debut on ABC. So the movie will create big buzz for the launch of the new TV show. So it's a win-win. But what poor Brian doesn't know is at the very same time, Disney behind the scenes is negotiating to buy ABC Cap City for $19 billion. All right. So
it all goes back to Eisner.
Oh, it all goes up 2 weeks later. On August 1st, 1995, this acquisition deal gets announced, and poor Brian now finds out the Muppets are once again working for Disney. And okay, February 1996, as we mentioned, Muppets Treasure Island comes out in theaters, does okay at the box office, but the problem is it sells $47 million worth of tickets, but it costs $30 million to make. So not a whole lot of profit there. Then, March 8th, 1996. So 3 weeks later, Muppets Tonight debuts on ABC. Does not deliver the ratings that ABC was hoping for, and it gets pulled off of ABC in July 14th of that same year. And then it sits in the can for almost another 15 months before the remaining episodes of the Muppets Tonight Show get burned off starting in September of 1997 by being aired on the Disney Channel. So Brian is beyond frustrated at this point because, again, the perception is out there in the entertainment industry that Disney is the de facto owner of the Muppets. Or it's that Henson only works exclusively with Disney, so he needs to do something to change this impression. So around this time, Kirk Thatcher writes a spec script, Muppets in Space. Storyline of this is Kermit being abducted by aliens and his Muppet pals having to journey into deep space to go rescue him. And what would have been cool about this, Lauren, is it would have been the big screen debut of the Swine Trek, the space vehicle from TV's Pigs in Space, that long-running skit from the original Muppet Show back in the 70s. Now, what was interesting here is that, Brian looked at that and it's like, wow, that's going to cost a lot. You're going to need to build a swine trek. You're going to need to do scenes that are set out in space. We're going to have to do Muppets that are floating in gravity. That's expensive. Is there a way we could do this without doing that? And so Jerry Joel, as I mentioned earlier, longtime writer, Muppet writer, wrote the screenplays for Christmas Carol and Treasure Island. He collaborates with Joe Mazzarino and Con Kaufman. And they come up with a screenplay called Muppets from Space, which it kind of inverts Kirk's idea. With now it's just the climax of the movie where the aliens enter the equation and they actually come down to Earth and meet the Muppets. Oh. All right. So anyway, what happens here is, again, Brian's very concerned about costs. So they opt to shoot in Wilmington, North Carolina, starting in November of 1998. Film, even with working this hard, it still cost $24 million to make. And by the way, this one's not directed by Brian Henson, but rather by Tim Hill, no relation. And by the way, Tim, very talented director, best known today probably for, he's the director of the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie from 2007. And he also did just a few years ago, SpongeBob SquarePants, Sponge on the Run from 2020. But all right, Lauren, we're finally getting to the jelly jars here. Now, where this gets weird is in May of this same year, 1998, Welch's, which, by the way, has been making jams and jellies since 1869, that's 155 years now, they release a set of 6 highly collectible jelly jars featuring the Muppet characters in space-related garb. Now, again, I want to point this out from, let's take a look at the camera here. That says Muppets in Space.
Indeed it does.
It's in rather than from. And we have, and again, that's Kermit dressed as, basically an Apollo astronaut. And we have the lovely Miss Piggy, again, in her space garb, which you have to have pearls when you go into deep space. Look at that, pearls. Okay, cool. But again, here's the weird part. It's Muppets in space, not Muppets from space. And the story I've always been told, Lauren, is that Henson, had set up the movie to be made at Sony through their Columbia Pictures division, and as part of the long term promotion, they reached out to Welch's, which they had a previous professional relationship with. They had done Welch's had done jelly jars for I want to say in 1996 for the Wubbulicious World of Dr. Seuss, which was another series that Henson made. And so it was just like, oh yeah, we'll do it for the next Muppet movie. And somewhere along the line, they never told the people at Welch's, oh yeah, the name of the movie has changed, and it's coming out in 1999. Is that going to be a problem? And that's why these jelly jars are so highly prized and sought after by Muppet fans. They celebrate a movie that was never made, Lauren.
I was just gonna say, like, wait, is there more to the story? Did it what happened?
No, that's it. It's just literally somebody, it's like, all right, call Henson. All right, they're making a movie, Muppets in Space, got it. And it's coming out in 1998, solid. And so, May of 1998, these things come out. July of 1999, Muppets from Space is released to theaters. And again, remember, made for $24 million. Only sold 22 million worth of tickets. So it actually loses money. And on the heels of this happening, Lauren, the Henson family decides to sell the Jim Henson Company to EM, a German entertainment consortium, 7 months later in February of 2000 for $680 million, which sounds like a big pile of money. But it turns out it's a stock swap, mostly a stock swap. And it turns out that EM stock is enormously overvalued. And suddenly everything goes sideways. And, for example, EM gets in trouble and turns around and, they need to be bailed out financially. They actually sell off their half of Sesame Street. Now, thank goodness they actually sold it to the Children's Television Workshop, which was had the other half of Sesame Street. So they, those two pieces came together and they've held on to it ever since. But the folks at the Henson Company were in absolute despair because it's like it was the money from Sesame Street, particularly the licensing of the toys, that kept Henson afloat for years. And now that revenue was gone. Anyway, long story short, it takes the Henson Company several years, but they eventually buy back the Muppets in May of 2003 for just $89 million. And what's interesting is they hang on to them for 9 months and then sell them off to the Walt Disney Company in February of 2004. And remember, this is where our story started. Michael Eisner finally gets what he wanted. He has the Muppets at Disney, but the irony, the absolute irony here, Lauren, is Eisner wouldn't be at Disney all that much longer. He steps down as the company's CEO in September of 2005, and Bob Iger, never really a Muppet fan. So all of that cool stuff we talked about at the top of the show. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there was going to be a restaurant merch shop that was just built around Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, that was going to make fun of the Hard Rock Cafe. It was called the Hard Luck Cafe. But that never got built, and we're still waiting for all of that wonderful stuff that was supposed to come with the Muppets that at Disney that never, ever, ever happened. So.
I do have to say, though, Jim, just a little bit of a tie. When I worked at ABC, an ABC affiliate, the Muppets in prime time did make its way back to prime time in 2015-ish. Do you remember that?
did. It
So
did. That was
even with
Bill.
Bob Iger not being a huge fan,
Yep. Yeah. No,
still
no.
brought it
In
back.
fact, what was fascinating about that story, that was Bill Prady. Okay. And Bill Prady at that point was behind The Big Bang Theory, which remember was a huge
Yes.
hit
Oh,
at
giant.
CBS. Yeah.
Yes.
And,
We were
and,
ABC and CBS, so I very much understand.
there we go. Okay. And the thing was that Bill started his career working in the puppets. And when he actually went to Disney and said, I know how to do the Muppets, and give me the Muppets and I will deliver to you a primetime TV show that, that on for ABC that everyone will love. And these characters will be out there again and you can merchandise them. And to be completely honest here, Disney made that deal because they wanted to be in business with Bill Prady. They wanted the guy who made The Big Bang Theory to be working at ABC. They didn't care about the Muppets. Bill Prady cared about the Muppets. And once again, when the Muppets came on and didn't do bang up ratings right out of the box, ABC, after just, I want to say, 10 episodes, took them off the air. And it was a wonderful show. Bill did an amazing job. And it should have run. And in fact, to be honest here, Lauren, Muppets Tonight should have run as well. But every time somebody does something with the Muppets, they forget that the first Muppet show, the one that ran in the 70s, didn't run on prime time. It was syndicated. And in every market, it ran on a different night. It ran in the 7 o'clock hour, but it ran on a different night. And, it was one of these things where local affiliates, were just like, hey, people are tuning in for the Muppets. We're thrilled. And so that show only became a huge hit in year 2 and year 3. So, and that's the thing with the Muppets, that if they had let Muppets Tonight soak, for lack of a better term, on ABC, and by season 2, in both cases, both the show that debuted in 96 and the show that debuted, I want to say that was 2007, 2008. Does that sound right?
And I think it was like 2015, the second
Okay,
one,
all right.
15 and 16, because I was there and we had a
Okay.
promo closet full of Muppets swag to help promote the show.
If they had let that show soak, if they had let the audience find that show, or more to the point, they'd let the show find its feet. Because again, that's the other thing they don't talk about with the Muppets is the first season, they're still figuring out that show. They're still figuring out hell, Gonzo didn't really become a character. Miss Piggy didn't become a prominent character till season 2.
I did not know that about them.
Yeah. No, I just trust me. I have all sorts of pointless information in my head, and much of it is Muppet related. But anyway, long story short, that's why I have spent all of this time collecting Muppet jelly glasses. In fact, this is my first one right here with Rizzo the rat eating the green cheese that's on the moon. And it took me forever to get all 6, but I just finished it. So,
what was the last one? Which was your last one that you got?
The last one was, oddly enough, Miss Piggy. And what was interesting is the person would not give. I made a lower bid, and it's like, no, it's Miss Piggy. You're paying top dollar, pal. So, but again, but we also have my, my spirit animal, Fozzie Bear. So him and Humphrey. So.
We got Fozzie, we got Humphrey. I was just going to say that. No, so thank you for sharing the amazing story and your amazing collection. We have been waiting to do this feature for Miss Piggy. So now the feature is complete. So I think it's about time that we close up shop.
That makes sense.
I think so. This has been a heck of an episode. Jim had mentioned earlier in the show that Pixar Fest was right up against, we got the season of the Force over in Disneyland. So we got some new merch for Pixar Fest, which is running from April to August. So we got some time to cover all the merch that's coming along with that. We did have a listener write in and ask about home decor and the evolution of that. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about that on our next episode, since now Disney is a real significant player, if you did not know, in the home decor market. Very exciting. So we want to hear from you, not only about your collections, like tell us what you have, and maybe we can share some information on the show. We also want to know what you're doing with those popcorn buckets. I mean, well, Jim's eyeing Jabba the Hutt. So let's see there.
That's it exactly, or Doug the dog. But also, folks, want to remind you that again. We have the 35th anniversary of Disney's Hollywood Studio coming up, and evidently there's all sorts of limited edition merch that'll be coming available on May 1st. So if you want to let us know what you got and what you're chasing, we'd love to hear about that. But again, please reach out and let us know what you'd like us to cover on this show. And Lauren, toward that end, how can folks get a hold of you?
Yes. So people can find me at lauren@laurenhersey.com, Jim at jimhillmedia.com. Really simple. But we're also over on YouTube. So we're really trying to get you some new interesting video content over there. So if you've not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. That is just at Jim Hill Media.
Okay. And I guess for now, Lauren, that's going to do it for I Want That Too. So on behalf of the lovely Lauren Hersey, I'm Jim Hill, and thanks for listening, and we will be back soon.